They took $6 million and spent it to suppress your vote. Nobody would spend $6 million to take something from you that wasn't important.
And we are going to make our way to the polls, and we're going to bust them open.
We come here to sing our song by speaking truth to power. We started coming here 11 years ago, and we've been coming here ever since because some powers are seeking to build cages around us. They are building cages around our educational systems that we will resist. Cages around our healthcare systems that we will resist. Cages around immigration that we will resist. Cages around women's rights that we will resist. Cages around our LGBTQ rights that we will resist. Cages around labor unions that we will resist.
The guy in the White House is a mortal, not a god. The members of the General Assembly are mortals and not God. The members of the Congress, they are mortals, not God. Bowing down is not an option. We will stand up again, we will march again, we will preach again, we will organize again. We are black, we are white, we are Latino, we are Native American, we are Democrat, we are Republican, we are independent, we are people of faith, we are people not of faith, we are natives and immigrants, we are business leaders and workers and unemployed, we are doctors and the uninsured, we are gay, we are straight, we are students, we are parents, we are retirees. We are North Carolina. We are America. And we're here and we ain't going nowhere.
Good morning, everyone. We are excited about this press conference regarding the constitutional amendment, Senate Bill 698. And joining me today are the Executive Director to my left, Dr. Terrence Ruth of the North Carolina NAACP, and Miss Melissa Price Kromm, who is the Director of the North Carolina Voters for Clean Elections, who will have a few words after I make this statement. We're certainly grateful for all of you, the press, who have come to be with us, and we're certainly excited about the opportunity of being the newly elected president of the North Carolina NAACP. I'm also the president of the North Carolina Council of Churches, and that is something that is historically new for this period of time. Never in the history of the Council of Churches or the history of the NAACP have the two offices been joint together. And so I'm excited to be here. Once again, the North Carolina NAACP must sound the alarm. The independent judiciary is under attack in North Carolina, which is an egregious affront to justice. This war on the judiciary is therefore a war on the people of North Carolina, and it is a war that the General Assembly has been waging for far too long. We've come announcing that we will stand against their illegal acts. Over the governor's veto 2 days ago, the all-white caucus of Republican legislators met behind their locked golden door and, apparently blind to the fact that there was not one black voice or vote in the room, agreed to vote unanimously to override the governor's veto of their bill to further bleach the bench and the district attorney's offices. Why would you exclude such brilliant legislators such as Dan Blue, Nikki Mishaw, Floyd McKissick, Angela Bryant, Amos Quick, and Gladys Robinson? You so-called legislators, in all of your privilege, would rather overlook the terms already established in Article 4, Section 16 of the North Carolina Constitution and ramrod your way to an unjust means of supporting your own polluted policies. Yet Article 4, Section 1 is clear. The General Assembly shall have no power to deprive the judicial department of any power or jurisdiction that rightfully pertains to it as a coordinate department of the government, nor shall it establish or authorize any courts other than as permitted by this article. Should not the millions of dollars already spent to defend the bad laws you passed recklessly serve as some kind of sign that your lawmaking abilities leave a lot to be desired? A unanimous United States Supreme Court has already held that the all-white extremist leadership caucus that is in control of this General Assembly got their seats through racially gerrymandered, discriminatory, unconstitutional means. And a 3-judge panel of federal judges has already ordered that new maps be drawn so that the people of North Carolina can elect new representatives. This means that the all-white extremist leadership caucus that is in control of this General Assembly has sat over 6 years and continues to sit now in the People's House without any source of legitimate power. But you lawmakers who have no business legislating on our behalf now seek to use your illegitimately gained power to engage in a 2-part strategy to retaliate against the judicial branch of government. This 2-pronged attack is flagrant attempt to consolidate power for them yourselves and intimidate judges from ruling against you. First, just this week, Senate Republicans proposed Senate Bill 698, which would amend the North Carolina Constitution to shorten all judges and state Supreme Court justices' terms to 2 years, and end all sitting judges' terms in December 2018. At the same time, House Republicans are pushing House Bill 717, which would enact gerrymandered judicial and prosecutorial maps that would rig the elections to make it easier for partisan extremist Republican judges to win. It is not hard to see why the General Assembly is doing this. It is obvious why the General Assembly does not like the judicial branch. The state and federal courts have stopped the racist and unconstitutional acts of this General Assembly time after time after time again. It is the courts that struck down the General Assembly's racially gerrymandered maps in the gerrymandering case. It is the courts that held in the monster voter suppression law case that the General Assembly engaged in intentional race discrimination by targeting African Americans with surgical precision and suppressing the black vote. It is the courts that struck down some of the General Assembly's early attempts to strip the governor's office of many of its powers after Republican Governor McCrory lost the election. And it is the courts that have, in at least 9 other cases, rebuked an unconstitutional act by this General Assembly. So we understand why a leadership caucus in power that is pushing an extremist, regressive, unconstitutional, and immoral agenda would want to weaken the power of the judiciary. But what they don't understand is that the people of North Carolina have never allowed their abuses of our democracy to go unchecked. And the people understand that this 2-pronged attack on our state judiciary is a threat to our democracy. If the amendment that has been proposed in the Senate passes, it would open up every judicial election across the state and force judges to constantly leave court to campaign for re-election every 2 years. And the cost of that would be exorbitant. And given that this past spring, the General Assembly also changed judicial elections into partisan elections, the net effect will be to reduce the judiciary to another forum for extremist partisan politics. While this kind of partisan, undemocratic game rigging is something the current leadership caucus of the General Assembly seems to relish in. It would erode the independence of our courts and inflict much suffering on the people of North Carolina who seek access to justice. Our courts have been a critical bastion of justice, and at times one of the only places where African Americans, other people of color, LGBTQ folk, poor families, and those most disenfranchised by this General Assembly's hateful laws have been able to find relief. The General Assembly now seeks to retaliate against the courts and against the people of North Carolina, who have sought refuge there for the justice that has been done in those cases. The North Carolina NAACP strongly opposes this latest maneuver in the General Assembly's seemingly never-ending bag of tricks. We call on the illegally constituted legislator to repent from these actions and refuse to condone further efforts to create a single arm. As Isaiah proclaims, woe to those who make unjust laws and legislate oppressive decrees. For 3 cycles, 2012, 2014, and 2016, you have reigned supreme here on Jones Street with your rigging and your scheming. You have hijacked the people's house, but your house is about to cave in because the people have truth on their side. The people have morals on their side. The people have love on their side. And the people have justice on their side. And the people united can never be defeated. Thank you. Now we will hear from Melissa Kromm.
Hi, everybody. My name's Melissa Price Kromm. I'm with the North Carolina Voters for Clean Elections. We've historically done a lot of work on fair courts issues, and our fair and impartial courts are under attack. It just didn't start this year. It started in 2013 with the repeal of publicly financed judicial elections, and that stopped big money to flood into our courts, our judicial elections, and it continued this year when the North Carolina House, during this last extra special session, voted to gerrymander the judges' districts in a way that marginalizes people of color. Under the new judicial districts proposed by the House, almost half of North Carolina's African American judges would be forced to run against each other. So thus half of them would lose. And then it continued with the attacks on our fair and impartial courts. This legislature has forced all judicial elections to become partisan contests. North Carolina is the first state in almost a century to move from nonpartisan judicial elections to partisan judicial elections, further politicizing our courts. And then on top of that, last spring, lawmakers decided to shrink the Court of Appeals to keep a Democratic governor from appointing new judges. And now, with the latest attack, they've now filed a constitutional amendment to fire and eliminate all judges and to force them to run every 2 years. There's a very good reason that we have judges, most judges run every 8 years, is to keep the courts from becoming a political circus. Mm-hmm. And then on top of that, we're hearing, a lot of this happens behind closed doors without public input, without properly vetting policy ideas, and it just pops up like the elimination of judicial primary sit in a conference report. It gets passed overnight. So, we're hearing of other things that they want to do. They're coming up with this kind of alternative to a scheme to cancel all voter elections and judges together. And just because they want something called legislative appointment, which is frankly nothing more than politician selection of judges. And that's also dangerous. And we have to talk about these things even though bills aren't filed, because we know that they're talking about them, and they'll pop up in January and the public will have no recourse because they'll just jam it right through. This is the time. We have to organize now. Right. They are rigging our courts.
That's right.
We must stand up and fight.
That's right. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Are there any questions at this time from the media? If there are no questions, we certainly appreciate your being here with us this morning, and we will continue to be vigilant with regard to this Senate Bill 678 and any other actions that come forth from this General Assembly that are counterproductive to the cause of the people. And so we are going to demand that they do the right thing, and we're going to do all that we can to fight back the powers that be. Thank you so much for being here this morning. God bless.
Thank you. Thank you, Dr.